chestnuts roasting.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vlogmas. Today is Vlogmas Day 5 and we are going to be discussing my favorite books of 2025. Honestly, I had a really good reading year in 2025. I don't know exactly how many books I read. I think about 40, but that is honestly a lot considering what this year looked like. I was in school in my last year of law school for the first 5 months of the year, and then I was in my internship for 4 months. So kind of 9 months of the year I was extremely preoccupied, and I didn't set a reading goal for myself this year because honestly I had no expectations. I'm extremely surprised that I even ended up reading 40 books, but yeah, I think because I didn't have a reading goal, I kind of gave myself a lot more grace with the books that I ended up picking up and reading, and giving myself freedom to DNF books that I wasn't enjoying or pick them up 5 months later. And yeah, I just had a very, I would say, very easygoing reading year, and because of that lack of pressure, I ended up reading a lot of good books. I would say 80% of the books that I read this year I enjoyed a lot. I don't think there were any books that I absolutely hated that I finished. I DNF'd many of them, but to say hated, that's a really strong word, and I don't think I hated any books that I read this year. So we're gonna get started on my list. I won't be doing them in any particular order except the top 5. So I'm just gonna kind of go down the line of my list and talk about what I loved about them. The first book that I have on my list of favorites is Defy the Night by Bridget Camera. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. I absolutely loved this book. I'm almost sure I gave it 5 stars. I wasn't really rating books a lot this year. I was just kind of having fun with it and just reading, but I loved this book so much. This one and the second book in the series, Defend the Dawn, was so good. I never finished the series. There's one more book in it, so I guess it's a trilogy. I never finished it because I was honestly a little nervous because I saw one person say that the third book was not that good and it was better as a duology, and I got nervous because I don't want to have my experience marred by that third book. But I married it eventually. I really loved these first 2 books. Then I had, oh my gosh, honestly, the book that I was about to call is one of my top 5. So I need to rearrange my top 5 because I absolutely love that book. So let's move on to Just the Nicest Couple. I think that's by Mary Cubic or something. Mary. Yeah, I read that book in a 24-hour reading vlog that I did a few months ago and was very surprisingly impressed. I did not think that I was going to enjoy it a lot. Sometimes with mystery thriller, I don't always get great results in terms of rating and enjoyment because I always either guess the ending or I'm extremely underwhelmed. But I had a couple thrillers this year that really impressed me and that I really enjoyed. So this is one of them. Just the Nicest Couple is about these 2 couples, right? There's one couple who the husband is missing and the wife is trying to find him. So that's one of the perspectives in the book. And then there's another couple, and the wife in that couple thinks that she had something to do with the death or the disappearance of the other person's husband, and she confesses like her last time seeing that person's husband to her husband, and her husband is like, just don't tell anybody, don't tell the other woman, whatever. And we kind of just follow this story, trying to unravel what actually happened in his last hours or before his disappearance. And yeah, it got me. I can't lie, it did get me, and I was into it 100%. Yeah, I really enjoyed that book. And then I have maybe once, maybe twice, I also did this in that same reading blog for 24 hours. I surprisingly really loved this book. It was about a marriage pact, and this girl, she made a marriage pact with 2 different people, and then all of a sudden they both kind of came cashing in on her 30th birthday. And it is definitely a love triangle, but the way that it was told, it was honestly a really difficult love triangle. And I said in that video that I only respect love triangles or enjoy love triangles when it's fair. Like if there's the true potential to really love both of them, that's the only time I could get behind it, because otherwise, I don't know, I don't like the author spoon feeding or like only fleshing out one of the people and kind of not really giving the other person a chance. I want it to be difficult, but she made the right choice, and that's all I'll say. But it was really fun, honestly. It was really good. Oh, and then the next book that I have on my list is Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle. I really love Rebecca Searle's writing. I've read this and In 5 Years by her. I tried reading An Italian Summer, and there was a trope in it that I didn't like at all. Anyway, yeah, she gets a paper note every single time she gets a new love interest, and it shows exactly how long she will be with that person. So it would say Matthew 12 days or Alexander 3 years, and then either naturally or kind of brought on by her, these things come to pass. And then she receives a note at the beginning of this book that has a guy's name and only actually just his name, so it has no deadline or end date, expiration date, if you will. And I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I read this when I was on my way back home from visiting my brother, and I don't know, something about the writing and the way that she tells stories and kind of makes it so that you love all of her characters and really understand where they're coming from. And she packs a lot into very short books, I would say, and they're never just what they seem. I love her, and I loved this book. The next book that I read on that same trip to my brother, I read this one I think on the way, possibly, or during that trip. I read that during my trip, is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, which I really enjoyed. This one is a little bit deeper and very emotional. I didn't cry, but I did feel a lot for these 2 characters. It's about a divorced couple who are also co-parenting and both own a business together, and it kind of discusses their past as well as their present and how they're coping with their divorce and if there is a possible future with them, because there are still so many complicated feelings between them. And I really loved this one. I loved the way that the story was told, and I really enjoyed Kennedy Ryan's writing more than I expected. So yeah, Tia Williams says emotional, raw, real, and addictively delicious. I concur. I completely agree. I couldn't say it better myself. The next book I don't have a physical copy of, but it's Listen for a Lie. I thoroughly enjoyed it, honestly. You see, maybe I should have started a little longer with my top 5 with my top 5 list, because now I'm thinking, did I love this as much? No, I didn't. But I really did enjoy it. I would say this is 4 stars, maybe 4.5 stars. I enjoyed it a lot for a mystery thriller. I also really loved the aspect of a podcast. So this one is about a girl who is accused, or people believe murdered her best friend on the night of some wedding in their small town. She leaves the small town for many years and then she comes back home for her grandmother's birthday party, and a podcaster who's like a true crime podcaster and talks about like unsolved mysteries, he comes and he like he befriends her family and tries to get her onto the podcast to explain what happened that night. And she also has some sort of amnesia surrounding the situation or the day or the trauma about that situation, and like she's also kind of uncovering certain things, and it's just told so masterfully. I really enjoy that the author created the main character. So this is a story about a world that has fae in it, or somewhat has fae in it, and a fae steals the main character's soul, but only half of it, because she's saved before he could take her whole soul. And so she is kind of living life with half a soul. She doesn't feel emotions the way that she thinks that she should, or the way that everybody else seems to feel emotions. She doesn't like express emotions the way that she does, and just the way that the author crafted her as a character, making her seem so whole, even though the words are saying that she's half, but you could tell that she's not, because she is so real and she grasps the emotions that she has extremely well. It's just that nobody else kind of understands her emotions. I loved, more than the romance was cute and it was fun, but just exploring her character and the way that the author created her was my absolute favorite part. And then on my list, I'm very late to this train and I've never finished the series, so don't come for me, but The Naturals by Jessica Lynn Barnes, or not Jessica, Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've read her other series, The Inheritance Games, really enjoyed it, honestly. And when I saw the hype going around about The Naturals, I was kind of nervous, not just because of the hype, but also because she wrote The Inheritance Games, and that has like, it's scary because I liked it so much. But I really enjoyed The Naturals and I will absolutely be reading the rest of the series. I just haven't gotten around to it, but I really enjoyed the first book way more than I expected, and I think that was kind of due to me waiting for the hype to die down a little bit, because if I had read it at the peak of the hype, I don't know, I would have gone in with different expectations, and I did, and I was really pleasantly surprised. The mystery got me, and it was fun, it was fast-paced, it was exciting to follow all of these characters with all of these quirks, and yeah, I really enjoyed The Naturals. And then, okay, the bookstore, no, I can't speak today or read clearly. The Book Club Hotel by Sarah Morgan. I read this at the very beginning of the year, so maybe in January. I think honestly in January, that this may have been the first book that I read this year. I loved this. This was so cute and cozy. It's about these three friends who always go to a hotel to host their book club at the end of the year, and this year they go to a kind of struggling Airbnb and they befriend the, is she the owner? Yeah, they befriend the owner and the hostess. Honestly, I feel like I should read this again. I want to read it again. This was just so cute and cozy, and there's a little romance, and it's just, it honestly follows the lives of these women and how they not interconnect, because they don't interconnect per se, but how they could all relate to each other's struggles in different ways. And I don't know, I love this book. This book has a really special place in my heart. I think I read it at the perfect time, and I fear I might read this again. I'm just thinking about it and how much I loved it, and it was so sweet and cozy. It really felt like I was transported. I would say this, the ambience in this was so perfect. It was spot on. I was absolutely there, or I was watching it on TV. Like, I could picture it right now in my brain, and I haven't read this in a year almost. So I love this book. It's really good. Okay, and the last book, I had to add this book onto this list because I'm currently in the process of reading it, but I haven't finished it. I think I may have lost my page, but I am halfway through at this point. I am eating this up. You will see in my reading vlog how much I am thoroughly enjoying this book. This is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it really just follows this very privileged young girl as she is exiled from her high society life to New York to live with her very theatrical aunt, and it just follows the theater scene in 1940 from her perspective. It also does talk a little bit about the Second World War, and also told from her perspective as somebody who is very like wild and self-obsessed and in the theater scene of New York in her youth, and really only cares about herself and her enjoyment of life, and how that is just something that's happening in her background. It's just really good, and I know that this, even if the next 200 pages disappoint me, I know just the enjoyment that I've had reading this book earns itself a place on my top, I don't know how many, maybe 15 of 2024. Now for my top 5 books of 2024, and I have them in order here, but right, I just have one to switch mentally, so let's hope I don't mess it up. But number 5 is Old Flames and New Fortunes by Sarah Hogel, who is the author of You Deserve Each Other. And I don't really have a lot to say except that I absolutely ate this up. And it's a second chance romance, and it's like a witchy kind of town, and the main character is a witch, and her ex-boyfriend is very stuck up and doesn't really believe in that, and it's just, the banter is so fun. It has to do with a wedding, so like preparation for a wedding, and it's so good. The main male character loves her so much and is so clear, so straightforward, and he just means business. Like he was never beating around the bush about how he felt about her, and I just love that in a romance. I don't care. I love when people are straightforward and confident, and you can tell that he knows her so well and loves her so much, and like, as skeptical as he is about her and her new path and who she's become since he knew her, he still loves her, and it's just, I loved it. It was so cute. The next one, Daisy Jones and the Six by none other than Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't need to explain this book or introduce it to anybody, but I really loved this book. I also read this very early in the year, in January, and I remember very lightly annotating it, and there were like so many quotes in here that I loved. And oh my gosh, this isn't a quote, but this is just a section, and I'll take a picture and I'll put it on the screen because something about it was so cute, and the relationship that's being talked about in the scene, I love it. I feel like it was kind of demeaned by the ending of this book, that relationship, but I can excuse it. This was a really good book. I've never seen the show, but I loved this. This is a book that I could see myself rereading and enjoying just as much. Then number 3, oh my gosh, The Italian Job. I've been waiting since June to rave about this book because it truly was so good. It was so, honestly, the first word that comes to my mind is hot. It was hot. Like, the tension between them was just so palpable and so cute, and it really just is a neighbors, like, they're neighbors, but they kind of have this kind of tension between them. They're not really friends and they don't get along. And then she wants to be a chef and she gets fired by her ex-boyfriend, and then she gets the opportunity to go and do her dream job in Italy, which is kind of manage a gigantic Italian house and cook for the people there. And it's just, she brings him along as like the house manager or the property manager to tend to the yard and all of those other stuff, and it's just so good and so fun, and nobody talks about it enough. I saw one TikTok about it one time and read it, but this, like, the setting of it is so fun. It also is one of those books that I could completely visualize, and the characters were so nice, and the main male character in this was also very straightforward. He is very flirty and very, I don't know, he has a roughish exterior, but he's so soft inside, and you could tell like he never really tried to hide it that well, and it was just so good. I loved both of the main characters as well, not just the main male character. So this was so good. I recommend this so highly. Easy 5 stars. My second favorite book of 2024, which the vlog that I read this in is not out yet by the time that this video is coming out, but Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I won't say that much about it. It was a 5 stars. I loved it so immensely. This was my first Cassandra Clare book that I've ever finished, and the writing, the characters, the storyline, I'm so excited for the second book. I can't even talk about it, but I loved it, and I read this very late in the year. Number 1, my favorite book of 2024, and this was hard because I really did have a lot of books that I absolutely loved for different reasons this year, but Shocking Nobody and Being Basic. Funny Story by Emily Henry. I know I don't need to tell anybody what this is about, but the characters and the banter and the relationship and the friendship that they shared in this book was like none other. I really loved this book. I loved the writing, and I think this book is second only to Happy Place in my opinion. And if that, like, some days like I really can't decide because I love them both for such different reasons, but this book was so good. I loved how imperfectly perfect they were, and also Miles reminds me so much of my fiance, and I think Daphne also, is it Daphne? I think it is Daphne. This was the year of Daphne. Yeah, Daphne. She reminds me so much of myself a little, so I just saw myself so much in this book, and there was just one thing missing, and it is in my funny story reading vlog, but I really love this book, and I'm so excited for Great Big Beautiful Life next year. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this video talking about my favorite books of this year, and I don't know, I just feel so happy having spoken about all of them because I just had such a great reading year, and I loved so many books. There are even books that I've really loved that are not on this list, and so yeah, I'm so happy that I got to read so many amazing books, and I'm so excited to read more in 2025. And yeah, thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you tomorrow.